I want to go over something that I think is very important. It's very important to me, and I know it's very important to our Father, and that is what His name is. I want to read to you starting in Exodus chapter 3, verse 13. Then Moses said to God, "If I come to the people of Israel and say to them, 'The God of your fathers has sent me to you,' and they ask me, 'What is His name?' what shall I say to them?" God said to Moses, "I am who I am." And He said, "Say this to the people of Israel, 'I am has sent me to you.'" God also said to Moses, "Say this to the people of Israel, 'Yahweh, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and thus I am to be remembered throughout all generations. Go and gather the elders of Israel together and say to them, 'Yahweh, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, of Isaac, and of Jacob, has appeared to me, saying, I have observed you and what has been done to you in Egypt.'" Yahweh in Hebrew is used roughly 6,824 times. It is very, very important. And He makes a command of it, saying, "This is my name forever, and thus I am to be remembered throughout all generations." The oldest scriptures that we have are the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Dead Sea Scrolls has Yahweh's name in Paleo Hebrew used a little over 2,000 times. In our English translated Bibles, it's typically translated Lord in capital letters. That would be a telltale sign for how you know it's supposed to be Yahweh. Another thing that I want to point out is some people get confused with thinking that verse 14, where it says, God said to Moses, "I am who I am." They take that and they think that that is His name. It's not His name. It was a description of Himself. English doesn't translate Hebrew very well. What was said, and is said in Hebrew, is Yahweh, Asher, Yahweh, which roughly translated means existence. I am existence. So He wasn't telling him, "My name is existence." He was letting him know, who do I say sent me? Existence sent you. I am the reason for existence. I am existence. The Father is outside of time. He is existence. If you flip forward a little bit to Leviticus chapter 21, and I'm just going to read just a verse out of it, not to take it out of context, because he's talking to the priest and telling Moses certain things. It says, "They shall be holy to their God and not profane the name of their God." Well, you can't profane the name Lord. You could, but it's not what He intended to say. You cannot profane Yahweh. And we'll flip forward to Ezekiel. Chapter 36, and I will start at verse 16. "The word of Yahweh came to me, Son of man, when the house of Israel lived in their own land, they defiled it by their ways and their deeds. Their ways before me were like the uncleanness of a woman in her menstrual impurity. So I poured out my wrath upon them for the blood that they had shed in the land, for the idols which they had defiled it. I scattered them among the nations, and they were dispersed through the countries. And according to their ways and their deeds I judged them. But when they came to the nations, wherever they came, they profaned my holy name. And that people said of them, 'These are the people of Yahweh,' and yet they had to go out of His land. But I had concern for my holy name, which the house of Israel had profaned among the nations to which they came." Again, they didn't profane Lord. They profaned Yahweh. And it's even more important to use the proper words. One, it's a command from Yahweh himself to keep his name holy and to remember it for every generation. He didn't give a time limit on it. He said throughout all generations. But another way to look at it as well is that when you translate words like Baal, which is a pagan deity that they worshipped in different countries, it literally means Lord. It's the equivalent for Lord, Baal. I just don't feel comfortable using a name that could be loosely translated for anything. I like to distinguish who I am and what I believe in, not because I want to be different than others, but because my Father tells me to be, and he tells me to use these names, and he gave me his name. He gave Abram his name and said this is to be remembered throughout the generations.